on ESPN, First Take, any podcast where they have a segment, basically a segment that they're doing for 8 minutes. For me, and it's really just how do I condense that into 80 seconds?
If you hate homework, don't be an NBA broadcaster because all day I do homework.
If you wanted to get into the media world, you had to write for one of the biggest publications. You had to get onto one of the biggest networks if you wanted to have a job in sports media. But now that's not the case at all.
How do I go to a national audience? Why would someone in California care about something going on in South Carolina?
Ultimately, I think if you're just you and like truly authentically you, people crave that.
The best advice you can ever get is just start.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Holden Conversations. If I could use one word to describe my guest today, it would be consistent. He's been making NBA content for 4 years now, day in, day out, just so consistent. He graduated college from Syracuse University about 8 months ago, and he's living in New York City, working full-time for himself. He's got over 450,000 followers on his social media accounts, making NBA content. Ben Casalinho, thank you so much for joining me today.
Holden, man, it's a pleasure, man. Excited to be here.
A long time coming, I feel. Long time coming.
Yeah, I mean, I remember our conversation at Shine, or our lunch at Shine in August of 2022. So
yeah, my freshman year at one of the student center, we got lunch and we haven't chatted much since.
That's what I was wearing a
now.
hat every day. I didn't even ever show my hair, but it's dope to be here.
So I got to ask you, what was kind of the inspiration for making the content that you make? You make a lot of short form content. It's all over TikTok, it's all over Instagram, it's all over YouTube, and so on and so forth. What was the inspiration to just start your content journey?
I mean, the inspiration was just wanting to be in sports media. Just simply put, like, I think the first thing I ever did when I was 15 was start a podcast. Where I was 15 years old, it was 2019. And that was kind of just me thinking, like, what can I do to start anything? And actually, the reason why I started my podcast was just for my college applications, just to make it like look like I was doing like just anything I could add for my college application. So I threw that in there, started the podcast. Didn't like even care if it got any viewership or whatever. Like I did not. I think I had like probably like 4 listeners. But again, it doesn't even matter. Who cares about that, right? So started that. And then now it's I kind of just saw short form video specifically as a way to really turn it into like a way where I could actually get eyeballs on what, I mean, it's just the media climate, I guess we're in, just a way to get eyeballs on what I'm talking about. And I think the thing for me always has been like, for people to talk about the NBA on any platform, it usually takes them until like, they're in their 30s or 40s, whatever. Like if you want to be on camera, right? If you want to be a television host, or whatnot. Even, I mean, obviously writers, you can get into that, earlier on in your career. But I just thought this was a great way, especially with where the media landscape is trending, to like, first of all, just have the autonomy to, really create what I want to. And just, it kind of morphed into this thing where things kind of just aligned. And it was like, oh, this is a really cool kind of thing to do, and a really cool way to just talk basketball. I mean, I always wanted to like talk about the NBA. I love talking about the NBA. So the fact that it's like a job, I mean, it's a kind of a joke. So yeah, it really just kind of morphed into it over time. Just like kind of thinking about like what ways can I find to like do this and get in front of an audience.
And in a lot of ways too, you created purpose. If no one was watching your content to start and you just kept going, a lot of beat writers, a lot of reporters, broadcast reporters, they have a purpose. They are serving an audience. You had no audience to serve to start, and you just decided, I'm just going to do this because I love it, because I'm passionate, and it turned into this.
Oh, I don't ever see. I think I didn't ever care about like viewership numbers. I think the thing that's funny, or the fun, is just like talking ball. Like I think in high school, like, I just wanted people to talk basketball with. Like you just want people to like have conversations about basketball. So like that's kind of like where it starts. Like simply put, that's what it is. And obviously, I care about, and maybe we can get into, like, I think viewership numbers and those things, like, you have to really detach from that, because it can get scary. The fact that, like, it's just a dangerous game to play where, if you're dictating your happiness or your mood on certain metrics like that. You have to really detach in that way. But yeah, I mean,
We'll get into
uh,
that later. We'll get into
yeah,
that later. I want to talk to you about the consistency part of this and how it started at something and now it's your full-time job and you just graduated college. How do ideas evolve just by doing for you? Like
yeah,
your format has not really changed a lot, but your production and uh, I would say your sequencing has changed a lot. But
yeah,
from 22 to 2026, I can't believe we're saying 2026, but that's a
yeah. No,
story
I
for
know,
another
right?
day. Um, the format has stayed the same, which is you're delivering stories about the NBA.
Yeah. So a lot of things have evolved in my thought process, at least. So 2022, like I think for me, it was just not even really caring about and I think maybe I think what I did wrong in 2022 and like when I started is I wouldn't I don't know if I ever like really but I wouldn't ever like really give thought about like how, let's say someone had like a viral quote at a press conference, right? And it goes viral. I would make just a video about that quote. And I think it's kind of a little bit of a scummish way to just like take away from what the actual beat writer is doing who asked that question. Like, I don't know, along the lines of how ethical that is to just basically um take with their like the question. I mean, I guess take the question they had and then just basically make a video about that player's soundbite or um take a, let's say Shams had some, inside bomb or whatever. And then basically just regurgitate what Shams said in that video. And I think now it's a lot more about like taking angles on things and like, so okay, you can still talk about these things. It's not like, you can't just, they can't just, if Kevin Durant says some crazy stuff at a post game press conference, it's not like, the reporter who has it has like some, copyright thing on what Katie said. But you have to have a certain angle about like, why certain angle about like, what to kind of build like the story around that. Like just like
Like why it's being
why is this
posted, why
important?
is
Yeah.
Ben posting it kind of.
Yeah, exactly. Like yeah. I think for me it's about really just it was really about taking it a step further about like, just not just regurgitating certain things and just taking certain angles and understanding that like, like, yeah, why am I posting it? Like why, what am I adding to this? Like obviously in media you don't have to like add that much, like Colin Coward or whatever, like, no one's adding like that much value here to society with like, oh, I think Greg Oden's or Kevin Durant's a bust, right? Like no one's really adding value to society like that, but you do have to have like some angle that you are taking.
I like this like vein of like journalism ethics in there. I feel like
Yeah.
that seems very important to you.
Oh, it does. But I don't know. I think it's an interesting thing about the post game press conference thing that I always lose to because I even now I'm on the fence about this because like if someone has a quote like let's say Bradley Beal or I don't know, you could just name like the player in the NBA. It's like says like some interesting thing in a post game press conference. Can I make a video about like basically not even adding anything about just basically just regurgitating like what happened with that? I don't really know how I feel about that because it's just like it's a weird thing. I mean, obviously, ethically, I want to lean towards like saying no and just I shouldn't do that. But I don't know. I guess there's nothing too wrong with that. But I just like to lean away if I can from like stuff like that. Like I want to be able to add something that like is interesting. Like add some stats or just add some content, add some my thoughts, like what I think. Like just add different things and why this means anything or if it doesn't mean anything. Kind of talk about how people are overreacting to certain like whatever. Just having an overarching view on something that did happen.
Yeah, and kind of being a mirror almost. And
Yeah.
being a mirror in a space where it makes sense to be a mirror. And you're saying if you're in an NBA press conference and someone else asks a question or you're in the locker room, that's their own that's their own material. You want to find purpose in having that content if it's going to be out there.
Yeah, because kind of viewing it as a TV show or like a talk TV show, like First Things First, or like a podcast, right? So if Nick Wright on First Things First is, talk because that's what they do. That's literally what I do too. Like if Kevin Durant has a viral quote at a press conference, they're going to talk about that, but they're not just going to basically regurgitate what they said. They're also going to kind of go over
Add some
like,
seasoning, their own
add
seasoning.
some seasoning and add some like context to like if that's important, if it's not. Add their opinion to entertainment, right? Add your opinion, what you think of it. Like, so I think all those things play into it. Like, I think before I would just basically sometimes I don't think I did this a lot, but I had some videos where I would just like really regurgitate what was said. And I don't think that's the best way to go about it, but you live and you learn.
Switching subjects a little bit, was it always the dream to be working for yourself out of college?
Oh no. I mean, it wasn't always no, because like I think when you walk into like Syracuse, you walk in a new house, like you're like, oh, I'm gonna work for ESPN, or you're gonna work for a company, out of college. But I I honestly think what I'm doing now is I mean, this sounds so narcissistic, but I think it is better. I think, and look, I'm gonna go out, I'll die on the hill if it's not, right? But I I think the opportunity to kind of like in a year, right? So in 1 year, if you're working for a company, like how much can you really upscale your career in 1 year? I mean,
You
it's
can
a
upscale
lot.
the company, but it's harder to upscale yourself in a lot of
It's
ways.
in 1 year you can upscale yourself tremendously, and I think that's kind of like the adrenaline rush that you kind of love about like the fact that you can like change the trajectory of your career like so rapidly, working for yourself, because obviously like how I entered that Bleacher Report, and you kind of just see how like they don't really like they're not really invested in like seeing you succeed. Like they're invested in seeing the company succeed. So
Yeah.
like they like they'll have you make videos for them, but like it's all about like what it's gonna benefit, how it's gonna benefit them. Like it's not there's not much focus on how it could benefit your career. So they're tailoring certain things. Oh, you have to make this shorter. Like don't really like make this video as short as possible because we just want the viewership. We don't actually care if you get to show some personality, show some creativeness, um with like making it a more interesting video that has more layers to it. So I think like for me in the media space now, there's probably like two. If someone who wants to cover the NBA full time, there's not really much like options out of college. Other like you can be a beat writer, which is a very valid option. That's so dope. Problem is the pay is sometimes a little questionable, but like that is obviously like a path that sometimes I was even beating myself about in college. Like, do I do that path? Like that seems like really cool. But I think I'm basically betting on myself and betting on the media landscape evolving to where I think it's already kind of going. Like where I think people like myself are going to be the people who are the next beat writers and the next people who are at these games credentialed and at the biggest games credentialed. And I think it's kind of just a bet into the future if I will. And if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. But I think I think I'm gonna be right.
I think at the very least, do try to have some level of like journalistic skills. Whoopsie, dropped my pen. Some like journalistic skills that you think are transferable to any content creator slash any person who's giving information. And what do you think those are for you?
Oh, the journalistic skills, oh, 100%. I would say that for me, like those last couple years in Newhouse, like really see that's like even the thing. Like here, my professors and like I'm like if my professors were watching my videos in like 2022, like I was like sitting there, I'm like, dude, they would hate my videos, so like they would hate my guts. So I'm like, I gotta change some things up. So that was definitely kind of a thing, just seeing um the things that they would talk about in the classroom, and then obviously like this past year, I the assistant dean, shout out to Professor Gallagher, like she was saying how how dope it is what I'm doing. So I think just to see and all the love I got from really all my professors 2025 2024, so that was super cool to like see that they actually had a deep appreciation for what I was doing. But in terms of like the journalistic ethics, I think again, it's seeing what angle like I can take of this. And I think a good example, let's just like look at the NBA today, right? So the Clippers obviously on a great winning streak and whatnot. And Ty Lue had this quote after this was like 2 weeks back that, we want to finish the season 35-20, that's our goal. And now they're 6-0 since. So
Yeah.
taking that quote and kind of just expanding on that, like, going, showing, what Kawhi's been doing, showing, I think not just focusing on that quote and kind of elaborating on like, how impressive it's been, what they have been doing. Because I mean, it's not rocket science. It's not like, talking about sports is like this deep rocket science. I kind of view it as like Get Up on ESPN, First Take, any podcast where they have a segment, basically a segment that they're doing for 8 minutes. For me, and it's really just how do I condense that into 80 seconds?
Yeah.
So if they're having an 8 minute conversation, Nick Wright, Chris, by the way, great show. I love that show. But
Nick
like,
Wright, Newhouse of Love.
yeah, shout out to Nick Wright. But like, Get Up, I like Get Up too. I don't know how much hate Get Up gets, but I do watch Get Up every now and then, and I think it's a good show. But like basically how they have their table talk at 8 minutes, 6 minute conversation. How can I really just do that in like 70 seconds by myself? Like, what do I think's interesting about this? What things can I pull up? Like, what do I think's interesting? And that's obviously as a hoop sicko, it's not really hard to like think of like what I think is interesting. Like, and if other people don't think it's interesting, like whatever, I don't know. So that's not my problem.
I know you talked a lot about the praise that professors gave you, but how did students around you, especially at a very traditional journalism school, view your
I
content?
didn't I didn't get any. I mean, maybe behind the scenes or behind my back, but I got all love, honestly. Like all love. Like I mean, I had students interview me for their class projects like throughout my whole time there. So I mean, shout out to my guy Noah Weinberg. We did a like his whole semester long project was about me and what I'm doing. So I think I had a bunch of those interactions of just people interviewing me for their class projects. A bunch of interactions where people would just sit next to me in class, like in these random classes, and just like oh I watch your videos. So I mean, look, maybe there's interactions about like behind the scenes that you know, but I don't know. I don't know.
No, I only ask because
But
whenever you zag, when everyone else around you is zigging, there could be some misunderstanding or some.
yeah, I don't think there's that because I think first of all, I think people understand how tough the job market is right now. Where like
Yeah,
um, I don't not that I don't need a job. I wasn't even I did a I but like not that I don't know. I think there's no judgment because I think people understand like that it's just a different landscape now. I think that's what I would say. People understand it's a different landscape and so and even if there was judgment, like I really wouldn't care because I'm doing pretty well for myself. So like I mean have and that sounds like weird, but I it's look if I would love see I love these conversations. If people have these conversations about like, oh Ben, you're doing something that I think is like you shouldn't be doing. Like, bro, let's have it. I love talking about this stuff, like the traditional route versus like what
yeah,
I'm doing. I think this stuff I could talk about this for hours, and I encourage conversation like that. But I never had because people aren't going to say it to your face either, right? They're not going
yeah.
to be like, oh, you're doing something wrong, and they may think that behind my back, And if that's what they think, oh well, I guess I just have to,
Do you ever feel like an outsider? Kind of because you are, whether you like it or not, you're outside the box.
yeah. No, I
For
mean,
now, the box has changed a little bit, but in the confines of media, you're still outside of the box.
see, and that's why I think I'm like so desperate to get credentials for like the finals and stuff, and like like I that and even the draft. I got the I didn't apply for the draft, but I
I should have seen
did
you
I
there.
yeah no I didn't apply for the
Oh,
draft.
okay. You
And
should have applied.
but I was gonna get denied. I've applied for the Vegas Cup and I got denied, which was that was a shame. But like I don't think I'll get even now. I don't think I would get approved for those like big events like the draft or like the because they still don't really if I for example I think if I made content about one team specifically and if I let's say I only made content about like the Orlando Magic and like I was just like this Magic guy like they because I would probably get credentials for the Magic but
Yeah,
since to get credentials for like someone who like I claim to be like some national person covering the league it's a lot harder. Now I've gotten it, but it just it's tough. You get denied a lot because and rightfully so, right? I think like I don't know what I have to do. Maybe it's like hit 1 million followers. I don't know what exactly the number is. Um, but I think it's also like I have to evolve my content and make my and that's why I've been a big proponent of like the past years, just like trying to make my content better and like just trying to make it more like more like I would say like just have more layers to it and I'm blanking on the word, but like uh really just try to add like just not make it so like shallow where it's like there's only like one thing. Like make it as substantive as possible. Obviously, short form you can't make it like super substantive, but try your best to do that with graphics and whatnot, all these things.
do you think having uh obviously you have your own media company, but do you think having like a podcast or like another person with you could make it more beneficial? Maybe there's a little bit more back and forth almost with it. And
And
especially because
that's
like if you look at someone like sorry, not to interrupt you, but if you
oh
look at
no.
someone like Brad Parker, his stuff is like a lot of interactions with fans or players. Yours is direct storytelling. And even though your content is amazing, there are a lot of storytellers. So do you think it's the lack of interaction
I
could
mean,
play
I think
into
there's
it?
a lot of interviewers. I mean, the whole space is saturated, right? I mean, there's a lot of interviewers too. I mean,
Of
come on.
course, no,
Like,
100%.
I'm
Yeah.
saying like the street interviewers, like that street interview style is very saturated. I mean,
Yes. Yes.
but honestly, there's no. I feel like I don't think that's like I mean, like yeah, the reality is just a lot of everyone nowadays. I mean, like
Yeah.
it's the
For
media
sure.
landscape.
Yeah.
And there's no gatekeepers, which is like kind of a beautiful thing, and it kind of plays itself out here, where you don't need permission from a Fox executive or an executive at ESPN, at Bleacher Report, at any Yahoo Sports, like any company you can name. So you don't need that permission from somebody, so you can just start and do it. So of course it can be saturated, and that's fine. I think for me about what was the question again? Like I'm reframe it more specifically because
So I
I
was saying, do you
kind of got
think
lost.
the interactive element that
Yes.
isn't necessarily apparent in a lot of your content, do you think that could potentially get you to the
Yeah.
spot
Well,
where the
yes.
NBA
So,
is
so
more willing
fine.
to
I
give you
think when it
credentials?
comes to I think in the future we'll start to see this more. I think podcasts will start to be, or they're already starting to be very embraced. Like the Deep Three, I think of I mean, like, there's so many podcasts where you know they're like just full blown, like they can get credentials probably for the finals. Like that they've reached that level. So I think like for me, yeah, of course, having a successful podcast is probably like the probably the crown art, the crown jewel of like accomplishments. I think having a successful podcast is like one of the most uh, viewed ones in the space, whatever sport you're covering. Like that is basically what TV was, what radio, what sports on radio was,
Yeah.
10, 20 years ago. So obviously that's a big deal. That's kudos to those people who pull those together. I just think I don't know. Of course, I think that's something that I'm open to. Starting a podcast with somebody, of course. But right now, that is something that I think I would explore though, 100%. I would say that.
Speaking of doing a podcast with other people and such, what are some of the downsides to being like a one man band almost? Like working for yourself? Like, how do you compensate for that camaraderie that a lot of people get in
Oh yeah.
offices?
Yeah. This is probably the biggest downside of what I do. Is the fact that I am not having that camaraderie in the office. It's what drove me to even like really apply for that one. I'm not gonna like say, but the job I turned out, like that was the one thing that I like that was the biggest selling point of like, oh, it would be cool to be in a sports media company where there's camaraderie, right? It's
Yes.
there you have people, but I think for me the reason why I'm doing this is I think it has the biggest upside. And I just want to give myself a chance to bet on myself and really just have this thing like go to the levels I think it can go. So it's a sacrifice. I think it's the thing that is the worst part about it, like hands down. Like, there's nothing good about it, like, literally. It's probably why I moved to New York City, because obviously just big city, there's so many people here, there's so many people, like-minded people here. And it's just a place where there's such like a culture of just like being around other people, just like the walkable nature of it and whatnot. So that was the biggest selling point. On like there's things you have to do, right? So again, move to a city like New York, like there's things that you have to do to compensate for the fact that you're not really getting that interaction. So again, there's no good thing about it. It does suck. It's like the worst part about it.
When you say upside, what do you mean? Do you mean financial? Do you mean popularity?
I
Do
don't
you
even
mean
mean
socially even? Because in a lot of
I mean
ways,
I guess I mean like I guess a status from the perspective of like when you think of the biggest names in sports media, like the Steven, and I don't think like the ceiling of well, maybe who knows, man. Kenny Beecham, somebody who's like maybe I don't know if he's on like he's not on the tier one with those guys, but like I mean I think the media landscape is interesting because when you look at who are young people watching, not a lot of people who are like my age, our age, younger are really like that tapped in with anybody else really outside of like I don't even think Steve. I don't even think Steve. The people I know who how they consume their sports content really is through podcast. It's through YouTube. Like it's also through like for example, you see First Things First upload their videos on YouTube, or you see ESPN upload their shows on YouTube. So that's how I watch Get Up, for example. Like they have like the 20 minutes
Yeah.
in there, right? So, and they actually do really good numbers. So they, again, obviously it's a killer format. They crush it. But I think status wise, like of course, like having if you can get to a point where you have like 3 million. I mean, I don't even want to quantify because like, again, followers, like whatever. But like if you get to a point where it does get the attention of people like PR people at the NBA, and they're like, oh, we got to get this guy, credentials and whatnot, and all these things. So I think status would be like the biggest thing that it would just be a lot harder to elevate because you have to be on camera. You have to be on camera, I think, to have the biggest status.
Yeah.
And I think other than TV, that's why social is probably the second best thing in terms, like the second best avenue to go up that, because it's hard to get jobs on TV. I mean, I don't know, it's and basically until you're like 35, 40 years old, they're not just handing out a job to. I mean, there's a couple except like Noah Eagle. I just thought of as like an example.
Shout out Malika Andrews too.
Yeah. So how is Malika though? Is she like 31? Like she
31, but she's
31.
been like
Yeah, I mean, but
on
she's been there
ESPN for
a while,
like
though.
a long time. Yeah.
She's been, wow, that's impressive.
Her sister too, Kendra Andrews. She's
Yeah,
like
Kendra,
28,
yeah.
I think. She's still part of Gen Z too, I think.
That's
And
incredible.
like she's been on ESPN for a long time, covering the NBA and
That's
WNBA for a long time.
so yeah. Okay, there's definitely is a couple exceptions, but I think also the
And
beautiful
you next.
I think the beautiful part too about what I do though is even like look at all those people. So Malika's the host, right? They're hosts on TV shows, and obviously that would be sick. Like that, a host is a better job than what I have right now. Like I'm not trying to throw any shade. The downside to that though is that you don't have any creative autonomy in like how you get to kind of your presence. Your presence is basically handing over the rock, handing over the baton to your former NBA players, your former players, your analysts who are all former players on TV. So the only way to be like someone who gets to explore like the creativity and show some personality is doing something yourself, really. The only way to show personality is doing that. So
It's kind of your like being a full-time content creator employed by yourself is your way of kind of being outside of the box and being in the sphere that you want to be in, the NBA part of the world that you want to be in.
well, because I mean, I think what I'm like, if you do get that job, I mean, first of all, how hard it is to get like that one. I mean, there's literally one. Like, if you're not a former player,
Yeah.
how many? I mean, obviously, there's writers who have the live TV hits, like
Brian
Jamal
Windhorst,
Collier. Yeah, I mean, but yeah, Jamal Collier, Windhorst,
Bontemps
and
McMahon, Dave McMenamin.
yeah, there's a few of them. It's like half dozen, or maybe close to a dozen. And there's someone else I'm forgetting who does great. Oh, Michael Wright with the Spurs.
Yeah.
And but they see how they do it now. They do it by divisions.
Yeah.
Like Owen Masuk is like the Southeast Division NBA reporter. It's not there's like they're cutting. They've cut jobs. Like,
Only Dave McMenamin and Anthony Slater are like the only like team reporters. Dave does the Lakers, Anthony does the Warriors.
Yeah, so I think like that's kind of just what I see. Like the jobs are getting slashed. Like there used to be someone for most teams, right? And the Athletic is like the one company that does obviously the Athletic does a great job, but all of them are writers. There's not
Yeah.
live TV hits, but so I don't know. I think for me and how I see things, I like the path I'm going down. I think it does lead to a lot of upward mobility. And if I'm wrong, oh well.
I like this like approach of like, look, this is what I believe in. I'm going. Damn the torpedoes. We're here.
Yeah, no, exactly.
Does I know you've interviewed Rich Paul and you've obviously done a lot of cool NBA things. How does the idea of just like doing starting in 2022, you're just gonna make a video and then you're gonna make another video. How does it lead to roads that you couldn't even anticipate it? I mean, like you said, you didn't even know you were gonna be able to work for yourself.
Yeah, I mean, I think it was just because like you enjoy doing it. Like you just like it's fun to make content. It's because people always like use the word too, like, oh, content. Everything in media is content. Like journalism is content too. Like what is it? Like, people sometimes I feel like use that in like like making content. I don't know. I think it was just fun. Like I wanted to talk about sports, like every other, like a lot of other kids. Like I mean, it's just an avenue. And I think one of the cool parts about why I really gravitated to this was the fact that you have an audience of people who do see your stuff, and you have, and the reason why I like that is because you get interactions with actual human beings who watch your stuff, and then you get DMs. You get to meet up with people in real life who from like so. I think all those things are super cool. Like I guess I could use the term friends, but I have friends all over the country.
Yeah.
Like if I go to a city, I can hit them up because like we've connected now online
Yeah.
because they've watched my videos, or I've watched their I've read their stuff, I've watched their stuff. They do whatever, they're in the media space, they do social media for an NBA team, like whatever it may be. So like all these different people in the space, in the creative sports media world, like it's just so dope to connect with all these people.
How do you keep things fun? Like, how do you make sure while it's
Yeah,
your full-time job that there's still this thing called fun, which is why you started it?
that's actually a great question because it's been something that has been a focus of mine like the past couple months. I would say, like, especially now with it being like a full-time thing, you really have to just you really have to just separate yourself and your self-worth from like what is happening with like viewership and stuff, right? So I think a big thing for me is just like the reason why, like, I just love the NBA. So, bro, I'm Kawhi. And I think it's fascinating how he's going on for 45 now, 55, 51. Like, I think this stuff is cool. So when I'm actually working, I have a lot of fun. That's actually, I think it's cool when I put my headphones on. I get to like, read Twitter, read Reddit, all this stuff. That part of it is still fun to me. It's never not been fun to like do the research, write stuff. Recording is obviously still fun. I guess editing is like, I think editing is fun. I think the work itself is fun. It's the kind of detaching myself from the outcomes of like what's going to happen. When the process is fun, but the outcome, I think I became such a victim to like wanting certain out and just being addicted to the outcomes, like being addicted to the attention, being addicted to positive DMs you would get, being addicted to opportunities you would get. Like, so you're addicted to all these things where like when people are giving you external praise, like you happen to, people want to coffee chat, like all these things, like you get addicted to those things. And I think I just have to remind myself, like, just detach. Like, you can't control if people are gonna like want to do this X and X with you. Like, you just have to stick to like what is actually like, just stick to like doing it right. And I think for me, it's just about like now, no matter what happens, even if I did gain like I had nothing else happen in my career, like I just basically flatlined in terms of like everything. Like I just got 0 views. I mean, obviously I would need money, so like but like you still would need money, but like in terms of like the external praise and kind of going off the thing of like, oh, you're an outsider and all this stuff. Like, you can't worry about being an outsider because I don't know, what does that really even like. You just have to be content with what you're doing, and I think I'm super content with what I'm doing. So, you can't be worried about if people think you're weird, if your college peers think you're weird for not getting, like, I don't know, what is their opinion? Like, and it's easier said than done, but I think now I've actually gotten to a point where I genuinely do not care. Like whatever, dude. That's your problem. If you, yeah.
I mean, it's also just the best way to kind of keep going. As a content creator, I've actually never asked this to anyone. Do you financially plan, assuming that you could have like a little couple of months?
Yeah, I mean, I do have I do have some, yeah, no, 100%. Yeah, you have to. And that's actually probably a great thing about being in college when I started this, is I was able to like just not have any expenses or that many expenses for, because obviously my parents paid for college. That's my parents, and all this stuff. My parents, like, shout out to them. So, you didn't have any expenses in college. So for me, it's like all the money I made in college, I would spend money on like dumb shit. I would spend money on like, clothes and all this BS. So, but I was able to save a lot of it as well. So like I do have a cushion if I didn't make any money, which is great. And that's probably really beneficial. The fact that I do have like a cushion where it's like, if I made $0 this month, like I would be good.
Well,
That's really
well,
good.
it also probably helps you keep things fun as well because you don't feel like your back is
I
punched
think,
against the wall, or no?
I'm totally removed from that. So because I've had this cushion for like a while. Because when I started making money like 2022, like I wasn't like, I had no expense. So I've had the cushion out built up for a couple of years. It's never really felt like, oh, like rent's due tomorrow, I'm screwed. Like I never had that feeling yet. And hopefully I don't, but we'll see in like the future. But in terms of the thing about the fun part of it and keeping it fun was the fact of like detaching from the external validation. That's the thing that's tough because when you do get there's so many different ways. It comes in follower growth. It comes in people DMing you, whether it's like a viewer, whether it's someone who's in the space like yourself. I mean, there's so many different types of people who, um, there's so many different types of examples, or a hometown friend, or when you're out at a bar and you're just having conversations with people you used to know in real life or from high school or at college, and there's so many different interactions that you have. So just really detaching from like wanting their approval is a
Yeah.
big thing. And just like if they don't think what you're doing is that cool, like you just have to be like whatever. Like that's not my problem. I can't worry about that. Obviously, like we're human beings. We want the external validation, but like you really just have to. I think I've gotten to a place where I really just don't care anymore if like I do get validated that way.
Well, it just shows that you're locked in too. That like you understand your objectives.
Yeah, no,
Has
100%.
has fun changed? Like
Oh,
what?
of course. I
Talk
mean,
to me about that.
because when you're doing like when you're like first uploading like it's I think like summer 2022 you're uploading like you don't actually even like or even just like the first videos I would make were like in like January of 2021. I was doing like like so like let's say like the Warriors are playing like the Lakers or whatever. It was like a TNT game 10 o'clock at night. I'm a senior in high school and I'm just like filming like myself like reacting to the end of the game. Like, oh, like Steph Curry, like, I'm just like reacting to the game. And I'm just doing that because I don't know, I guess I'm like a weird. I was just doing it for fun. Like I did not
Yeah.
care if that got any views. I was just like, I just wanted to react and happy. And funny story, CJ McCollum's like 50-point game in 2019 versus the Nuggets, Game 7. I posted that on my story, like on my Instagram story, like 8 years ago, like just posting my reaction to the game, like and not expecting like because it's my Instagram story. I don't want any views at it. So I'm just like posting it because I'm like a weird ass kid who like thinks it's like fun. Like I just like I was like, oh, I'm posting this video, like, oh my reaction to like the Kawhi shot. So I think for me it was like I was just doing it because I just like liked watching sport. I thought it was like a fun thing. Now it's like there is different objectives. Like you do want to have like you do want to keep in you want to grow your like journalistic skills. You want to actually improve and like become like a person who like creates as good of media as possible. You want to be someone who like others will be like, oh, this guy creates like dope stuff. Like whether it's like through entertainment value, through editing, through like the research you do, and you want to improve on all these elements. Like it's not like in that has been a fun process though to like get better at all these things as well. But it's a lot different though from like just doing whatever, like the shenanigans.
I know you say that you don't, the best part about now for you is that you don't care what other people think. But are there certain people kind of adding into the fun bracket? Could you get a certain DM from a certain someone or someone like your post and like that like can really just boost your confidence, not your ego, but like be
Yeah,
like, man, like
yeah.
that was fun to see that.
I think again the DMs are something I always or even people like I think it was so cool being in college like people sitting next to you who like that kind of stuff was so dope and like the DMs obviously still now but like I think those interactions where you actually get to see like or like I'll be out at like a bar and people from your hometown like just like talk about like oh I watch your like and you don't even actually like know that they watch your videos like you don't know what
Yeah.
they think about you or what they know about what you're doing and then they tell you that stuff is really dope because I don't really crave the validation anymore of like profession of like having I think I for a while would put people on like a pedestal of like putting like the people who like write for these like big companies on a pedestal of like oh thinking that they're so cool but like I was pedestalizing them. I mean they they're a human being too. I mean I don't like I'm not gonna like basically just give you the permission in my brain to like think that you're better than me. Like I don't really care about like someone from let's say David McMenamin like reach out to me like he's like oh I love what you're doing like I would say, oh, thanks. But like, I mean, I don't really need that validation from like professionally. I think it's just connection with human beings. Like, I think it's cool when other human beings, like just people that I think it's cool when you see like the actual impact beyond the numbers and just like seeing like, yeah, people just like who like watch like, oh, I've been watching your videos. I don't actually follow, I don't actually like, but I've been because like that happens a lot where you see someone who like, they say like they watch your videos, but they don't actually ever like really engage it. So you don't really know if they are. But then it's like, oh, it's cool to like hear those things.
How do you make sure to not put yourself on a pedestal?
Yes, yeah. So I mean, I think well that's actually a good thing. So a good question because when you put yourself on a pedestal or anyone else, like it's basically just like a mirror of you thinking that like, you're not enough. Or you think that like people are out to judge you. And I think actually a big thing that I had to learn like not everybody's out to get you. Like I think I had this mind frame sometime where like I thought like because I was like an outside like people were out to get me of like oh I had to prove to people that like I was doing like just a cool thing. Um, but now it's like I think it just comes from just realizing that we're all human beings and just like trying to be as confident as possible. Like I think I would try to pedestalize myself as like a substitute of a lack of confidence at times. I feel like maybe, but now that I feel like I am confident, like, I don't view what I do as like I don't really care. And also, I don't really care what the perception is of like what I'm doing. Like, of course, like I don't know. Yeah, I really just I like to think I don't care. We'll see how time goes on, right? Obviously, I'm 22, so when I'm 29 and I'm watching this back, I'll probably like laugh about like, oh, you didn't actually really think that. But like, no, I think I've made a lot of and you make a lot more mental progress than like a lot of people from that perspective because you're just like, you're putting yourself out there. Like it's a thing where I don't. I genuinely and I genuinely don't think I'm on a pedestal. I try not to. Hopefully, I'm not coming. I don't think I'm. If anything, I think it's like I used to think I wasn't doing enough, and like I think now I'm just content. I'm just like I'm just living. I'm just here. I'm just here. So whatever happens, happens.
Do you think your willingness to do podcasts with people or have people interview you helps with that as well? Because it kind of keeps you connected to everyone else in a lot of ways.
Yeah, I that's the thing. I love just like connecting with other people in this space and not like I mean, because sometimes you get that weird dynamic where it's like you feel like there's like some power dynamic involved of a good example would be like Dave McMenamin. Like if I was talking with Dave, like my past self from like last year would have thought like, oh, he's so cool, like whatever, blah blah blah. Like look at me, like he's giving his time to me. I feel like now I just view interactions like no matter I don't think I'm better or worse than anybody. I think we're just human beings and that's it. You know?
Yeah. I noticed how you went from hat to hair in your content. Well, talk to me about when were you ready to make that shift?
Yeah, I mean, I think I wear a hat. It was really because I would just never get haircuts. Like that was like a weird era. Um yeah, so I think for me it was just probably just like, um that no, there was really like no meaning behind that. It was just like I just wore hats because like my hair was like so long and it's just I don't know, I just wore hats. Like there's like nothing to it, honestly.
No, I always thought it was fun. I had to ask you,
Yeah, no, no.
especially because we were talking about it before. What's next for you?
Yeah, I think like so what's next? Like I'll talk about like the year view, like I think what's next. Like for me, it's hopefully just to I view myself as someone who I guess cover the NBA, right? Like so talk about basketball, whatever, whatnot. I just want to be someone who like just does evolve into a person who like, um just who's and maybe this is like kind of contradicting about like putting myself on a pedestal like and like I always kind of go back and forth about like wanting to have more of these like um shiny goals to like basically on the outside it looks like I'm doing well. Like, I don't know. I don't really know if I care. Like I was for a while like want like oh 1 million followers on like each platform and thought that would be like cool if I had like 1 million on TikTok or YouTube or whatever. I don't know. I don't really care like about that anymore. I think I just want to be someone who like covers the NBA. So like I do want I think credentials are like the one thing I do want. Like the finals and stuff. I think like I just want to be someone who like just is a part of the fabric of the game. I don't know, just like someone who just like gets to do it, right? And meet other people who are doing it. And that's like kind of like I don't have any like big goals of like I just want to keep talking ball and just get better at it, right? Because I think I'm not. I just want to become someone who like actually like just someone who just continues to improve on my content because I think like there's a lot of flaws that I have still. I just want to like make content that like people like think like, oh, that's really dope. And I think I do get that, but I want to really feel like grounded and saying like, I know my content is really cool. And right now, I don't know if I feel that way about my content. I don't really like think like I do at certain parts. I think like I think short form intros are like the part I'm in my head about most. When you're like having to like make videos with like a certain introduction in mind of like how you have to like lead off a video, that's really like the part I don't like the most about short form. But it would be the same if I was making like 8-minute long YouTube videos too. So like the intro part is like weird where it's like people are obviously scrolling and you have to like kind of like think about like a way how to start the video. To me, I think it's like cringe sometimes. I have to like work on that and all that stuff.
Are you hard on yourself?
Honestly, I'll probably try to get better and hopefully not be as hard on myself. But I think everybody is, right? I mean everybody who's watching this is like, I think everybody's hard on themselves. So it's not something that and I think I'm trying to work on like give myself more grace for sure. Like I think my videos are actually pretty cool outside of the intro right now. Like I think I like the way I implement graphics and face cams. And I think the information I think it's good. I actually like binge watch my old videos. Just like it's funny to just like hear like what I was talking about in 2020 and just like hear random things that happened in the NBA in like January of 2023 or some BS. It's funny to hear that, but like I think the introduction is like a weird thing, right? I'm really in my head about that sometimes. It's like how do I start off a video, but whatever.
This is my last question for you. And I ask this to every guest, and I always say that this will be my first sponsored segment once I start making money on this thing.
Sorry, bro.
What is advice you would give to your younger self, specifically for you, Ben,
Yeah.
2022 Ben, when you started your content journey?
Yeah, I would definitely say like and this is like kind of weird because I think when I look back at like the 3 years, I always think to myself like, oh, I should have more followers and whatnot. Like, but like I think I was in my head about that stuff for like a while, of like worrying about like how many followers I have. But like I don't know, it's like I think just focus more on like just be more grateful for like the human interactions you have. That's like probably like the thing that would have blown my mind the most. Like when I started, it was like the amount of just people you get to meet is so cool. It's hands down like the best thing about it because like you just get to meet people who are like me and you. Like I think it's so cool just literally like the fact that we even have a relationship now because of like I think those kind of things are really cool. So I think that just being grateful for like the people that have like just being grateful for what you have. Like just like don't really always want more because then you're always gonna want more. You're always gonna like, oh, I don't want this. I want yeah. So you're always gonna want more. Just be grateful for what you have.
You want to drop your socials?
Yeah, at Ben Casalinho on all platforms. I think is it yeah. I think it is. There may be like a dot on YouTube, but like whatever. It's Ben Casalinho. You should be able to find it hopefully. And yeah, sweet.
Ben, thank you so much for being here today.
Man, yes sir. Appreciate it, Holden.
Thank you all for watching another episode of Holden Conversations. Make sure to like, subscribe, turn on post notifications, and follow Holden Conversations on Instagram for exclusive content. Until next time.